All right, we're live. Happy New Year. I know we had already another show this year, but it's my first time since the new year.
It's legit.
So, welcome to 60 minutes of unscripted dotnet entertainment. Our mission is to empower the dotnet community to achieve more in 2025. I'm your host, Maira Wenzel, with my co host, David and Frank.
Hello.
Hello.
And I'd like to welcome today's guest, Jose Javier Columbie. So how about you introduce yourself?
Yeah, no, absolutely. Really excited to be here. My name is Jose Javier Columbie. I'm the Express and Microsoft MVP, and I have been doing .NET for a long time. So really excited to be talking about AI. Everything nowadays is discussing AI. So I think that it will be a really interesting talk. Right now, actually, my mom had a visit from a nurse, and because my mom only speaks Spanish and the nurse only speaks English, she had one of those really nice apps that now translate from one language to the other one. So I was just really, really excited to see how far have we come.
All right. Okay, I think you're back. Like the image was frozen for a second.
Yeah.
Okay.
Well, we could hear. We
Yes,
didn't see
yes,
anything
The audio
that
was
happened,
coming.
but your image was frozen.
Yeah, so we're gonna talk about AI, and you seem to have an SDK that are gonna roll all of AI. Is that what
Yeah.
we're gonna be discussing?
Yeah, absolutely, absolutely. I think that it will be a fun talk. We're gonna go over a little bit the basics, and then we're gonna show some code. And happy to answer any questions in the middle. So let's make this a conversation. And hey, I think that everyone right now is talking about AI, and for a good reason. It has a lot of useful use cases.
Indeed.
Awesome. Should we share your screen so to get the thing
Sure.
get started? Okay. All right.
There we are.
All right.
Awesome.
So
Take
it
it away.
should. All right. All right. Thanks everyone for being here. Today we're going to be talking specifically about AI and semantic kernel. So one of the idea here on this type of AI talk is like my dad always watch one of my sessions and say like, I don't know what you're saying at all, nothing. So let's just briefly explain like AI is just the capability of machine of performing tasks that typically require human intelligence. And what we see right now today is mostly generative AI. So basically is the capability of the computer to generate text, image, or other media using model. I know it seems like magic, but definitely is a lot of
I love that one.
yeah, definitely is a lot of good statistical models and training and so on. And from there, we talk about large language model. And basically, large language model is monkey see, monkey do. They've been trained to get an input, get an output, and see what is the weight distribution, what is the most expected outcome, and then get trained in that we have. So then it will come to the GPT part. Basically, we are using predictions model to produce human-like text. So we just need to produce an output, and with that output, we're gonna do from text to, we're gonna transform that text to a speech. We're gonna transform that text to image, like with DALL-E. We can do translation, as we were mentioning just before this talk. My mom had a nurse come and visit her, and they don't understand each other. My mom speaks Spanish, she speaks English. So they basically communicate with one of these apps that we have nowadays. So these type of things, we are able to achieve it with AI. So having said that, I just want to mention this really briefly, that the idea here is that the models are not that smart. They just have some probability distribution of token where they put weight depending of what you're passing. So let's say that you're passing latte, it will look into the what is the most possible outcome. So it could be milk, it could be coffee, and if you see car start going down, and of course you have some parameters that you can play with it. So it could be not always the most the one that has more weight and so on. Same thing, if you see pulling into parking space, you see car gets a higher distribution than any of the other ones below. And you can actually see there are a lot of tokenizers there where you actually put any text in January and start giving you all the tokens that you want to review. So it's a good visual of what we are getting there. So from there, you see that basically we are passing in a set of tokens and we're getting another token, and then the second part does the same thing until it gets really big, and then you have the whole text that you are expecting for. So it's just about auto completion, about filling the blank, about making sure that you generate the text that you need. So for that use case, you have a lot of use cases. You have virtual assistants, you have text generation and editing, marketing, localization, data analysis, information extraction. So one thing that I want to do before we go further is show actual real use cases. So Silver String AI is a product that actually contacted us, and we were discussing what was his idea of how to use AI. We have a Microsoft startup program where they contact Microsoft MVP or someone that have worked with AI, and they give them the idea, and then we give them what will be your recommendation and so on. So if we see here, they actually, even from Trello, they have a web automation that you can start chatting, and they move things from to do to in progress. But not only that, if you're going to do some type of automated testing, you can chat with the site and you can tell them, hey, can you select this combo box? Can you move here? Can you move there? And you are able to get all this automation in a script so you can then run on your pipeline. So it's a really nice content about using your large LLM to actually interact with your browser agent and do anything you need. So here you see selecting everything based on what is putting on the chat on the left. So I think that this is a really useful case that start giving us idea what we can achieve. Another one will be this is a carbon project that they are using AI to forecast how much carbon credit is a certain amount of acres, a certain amount of plantation will produce. And from there, they make a marketplace that you can use if you want to contribute to the environment. And, you know, as we know, Microsoft is one of the ones who want to be carbon neutral for 1970 back. So this is a really good use case that helps. And one that I really like the most, and I'm not sure if StreamYard will show my audio, so I will do it with live captions. This live caption from Windows is also a beauty. So basically, this is a voice controller from customers, so support agent. Let's say that I call my repair shop. I say, hey, I have a problem with my radiator, or I have a problem, and the who answered the phone isn't actually AI agent that is telling me, hey, good morning, what's happening? And because it has also been trained with manuals of repair, it's really smart. It tells you, if your radiator is leaking, have you checked the water? Have you checked the thermostat? Is it vibrating? How long has been doing this? And you get a lot of context information. And then it's smart enough to see what technicians are available and what day of the week it can schedule you, makes the appointment for you, and everything without human interaction. Of course, if there is something that it doesn't know, it will transfer you to a real person. But if it has everything that it needs, good to go. So let's try to see. Today, I would like to make an appointment. There is something wrong with the steering. Can you describe the issue with the steering a bit more? So it's really smart. It's actually asking, give me more information about your steering. Yeah, it feels loose. It makes noise, put on one side. So it gives you a lot of recommendation. And it only happens after certain speed. Okay, thank you for the information. I will check our schedule, and Jessica, give me your name. I will put you in the schedule, so on, so on, so on. So this is a really, really good use case, and we'll see exactly how we can achieve this type of behavior, because I know it sounds like magic, but it's perfectly doable. And I personally, when I start playing with the semantic kernel, augmented capabilities, was blown away of the things that we can do and the things that we didn't have to do that the model take care from us. So having said that, let's come back to our presentation, and we'll come back at the end to these use cases. So, okay, what is the weakness of all of this? basically the models, they are trained on language. What does that mean? They don't know information. They don't know math. They don't know weather right now. They don't know who am I. They don't have context. So it's up to us, the developer, to provide this type of information, the context, to provide, for example, some type of function. That this is one of the most, I think, cool things that this has, that you can do function calling and call your own code. But basically, you are going to tell the model where to look for that extra information. If you go to any of those ChatGPT, and you start chatting with them, you see that it's saving the context. I tell, hey, my name is Jose, and respond, hello, Jose. But in real life, when you're doing in your application, you have to do it, because it will not remember that you're Jose. It will not remember where do you live. And if you're asking, hey, what is the temperature here in Phoenix right now, it will not know. So we need to have some way of finding that information, and that's what we will see. So to get expected answer of all these models, of course, there are several things, but I think the most important one, at least the most used one, will be prompts, RAG, and fine-tuning. Definitely, I think that 90% of the cases, at least for small to medium applications, will be prompts and RAG. If you're able to supply your own data, if you're able to do good prompt engineering, you're good to go. Fine-tuning, you will go there if you really need to give a tone, to do some type of specific characteristics to your model. So, of course, we'll talk about function calling. That's for me has been the revolution that allows, and almost all providers support it. So, prompt engineering will be the art of giving instruction to get each result. And there are just a few things that I want to mention here, because it's just a matter of start simple, tell him what you want, be as precise as possible, provide relevant context, avoid biases and assumption. It includes examples. Tell them exactly what you do, what the output they're expecting, and even tell them what you don't want. Like tell them what not to do, what. So if you don't know, don't hallucinate. If you don't like, this is what I want you to perform. So I think my mom and my daughter are really good at this. They actually always get what they want, and they are really precise of what they want, how they want it, and don't get outside of that line, because you're gonna get in trouble. RAG, bring your own data. So basically, the retrieval augmentation part will be that we're gonna provide our own business, our own domain data, and we're gonna provide it as well as part of our prompt to the model. The model then will get that response that you want, and will send you back a really, really smart output with the data that you will need. Only focus on that one, and we will see it shortly. And fine tuning, be careful there, because you can like get crazy. We did some fine tuning in our Azure AI Studio, just doing some tests. We let it run, and can be expensive, resource intensive, but definitely it's a good tool, and it's getting better and better. Now, you see now everywhere is Copilot. You see that we have AI-based search with Bing. We have Office 365 with Copilot, GitHub Copilot, that is just a beauty. It saves a lot of time, especially for a new developer. We can ask questions about the methods. We can ask questions about what is happening, what is the section. We can actually even select now models. So we can even select Cloud 3.5. That is really good for front-end tasks. I'm not at all the best front-end task developer, and it definitely helps me to do Blazor components and do a lot of things. So it's amazing. So in the heart of all of this, and this is where we get here, is semantic kernel. I think semantic kernel gives us the choice to have all our own code, all our settings, all our configurations, and have that code in a way that if I need to change from OpenAI to Olama, we just need to change the configuration on top, and we're good to go. We can continue working with the project, and it's just a beauty. And I know that right now we even have AI extensions that on top of that, you put AI chat client that makes it beautiful. But I think the semantic kernel still gives you more power at the end of more configurations and more leaders. So what is semantic kernel? Basically, it's an open source SDK that lets you build agents that call your existing code. Good thing is like it use model from OpenAI, Azure OpenAI, Google Face, Llama, and so on. So it's a way that we can call from dotnet, Java, Python. It gives you a lot of tools at our disposal. So basically a bridge between the LLMs and our code that we can use to put our memories or prompts and everything. So this is the part that I was mentioning before. If you see, we're creating the kernel here, and we have the choice to switch from OpenAI, Google Gemini, or Llama, whatever we want. And from there, all the rest of the code will remain the same for us to use. So a couple good points on semantic kernel, plugin, planners, and personas. So I'm gonna mention plugins, and then I'm gonna stop and go to code, show a little bit of code, then we'll come back, and then we'll be back and forward. So as again, any question that you guys have, feel free to shoot it my way. So plugins. Plugins, I think that is a really nice concept where you are going to encapsulate a few single units of functionality, and you are going to be able to interact with the code. So what do I mean by that? Let's actually, we have two types of plugin. We have semantic. Basically, we're going to have some type of definition of our plugin in text, and the model will be smart enough to know what you are trying to achieve. And we have native that will be our preferred choice. We as developers always want to code everything the right way and be able to get a response. So we also have the native plugin. So let's start doing a few simple things with semantic kernel. So we see it in action, and we see we are going to go from console app, and we're at the end, we're going to show actually a GUI that we actually can interact and so on. So let's start with here. Really simple. We have the package that we need to install in our console application, and we have our builder. We create the builder, we pass our configuration, we pass our model, and the IP, and we have as an environment variable. So right here, we can do as simple as just invoke a prompt and asking a question. What is DevExpress XAF and a DevExpress MVP? And one of the things that we do a lot is line of business application, and we have an application framework that allows to do that real fast. So let's just run it and go from there. That will be the first step. We have just put 3 lines of code, and we are ready at asking questions and getting response from our model. Let's give it a second. Hopefully, as I always say, the demo gods help me, and I don't have too many things going wrong. But if there is something going wrong, we'll fix it with the Google together, and we'll go from there. So basically, if you see here, just 3 lines of code, and we already have the model asking, responding, what is the Express XAF, what are the key features, what will you use it for application development, and so on. So we talk about the way to get expected outcome was like prompt, rack, and so if we see here, we are starting to improve our prompt, and we are going to say, hey, we have developers develop several line of business app in .NET with custom modules for data access, security, multi-tenancy. Our team is primarily focused on .NET technology, and we want to remain loyal to our tech stack. One of our software architects is strongly advocating for Blazor. So we're giving them a lot of context so he knows what to do. And from there, we're going to tell you, hey, this is the information about the user background. And given the user background, provide us a list of relevant application frameworks. So we want them to stay on the .NET ecosystem. So with that, we can run it. And it should give us a list of technology that is staying on .NET and that will allow us to build this line of business application with, as you see here, ASP.NET Core, Blazor, Razorpay, Maui, actually even giving us summary forms. That's interesting, depending on when it was trained, WPF, and so on. So you see that just by starting to manage the prompt, we're going to get more results according to what we're looking for. Now, let's continue. This is the most simple example for plugin. There are plugins that are built by us, but there are already built-in plugins. When you right now ask ChatGPT or any other copilots and so on, and we're asking about something current, definitely it's calling a plugin that calls Bing and asks for information back and then gives us the response. So right here, we're gonna use the time plugin, and we're gonna tell them to invoke inside the time plugin the function day of the week. So basically, it will tell us what day of the week is today. So if it's smart enough, it will know it's Monday, but that's not something that the model can know by itself. It needs some help from us, and that's where the plugin comes in. So let me comment this out. And let's do this one. So this is another plugin that is called Conversation Summary plugin. So this, I think, is one of the type of plugin that we use in meetings, like Zooms, like Teams, that basically we go and give them the whole transcript of our meeting, and it will from there give us a summary of the conversation. It gives us action items that we have to do. It will say, hey, Jose have to do this. In the meeting we talk about that their tasks for next month are this one and so on. So right here, same thing, we're going to add the plugin, and we are going to create the input. Basically, that will be the transcript. I'm a developer in Celsius application framework. I love Microsoft and DevExpress. Can you leave me a list of choice for my new app? So from here, we're going to invoke that plugin, and inside the plugin, the function get conversation items. So if we run it now, you see we have the action items here in JSON format. And basically, the action item will be the list of application framework for a new app. And the status is open. We don't have due date because we're missing some information that we didn't pass. The interesting thing here is that you can expect this type of output to be used anywhere. I have Octane here that is a really nice application framework from Chan Walker that I recommend everyone who is using Blazor to take a look. I just want to mention that we were in the Microsoft MVP Summit, and we were discussing with Chan and with Michael Washington, and actually Michael Washington was having a really good idea of having a chat where the users can say, because one of the things that Octane is that you can create modules for it, and it automatically, without having to recompile, you can add it to your application. So the idea here will be to chat with the LLM and asking, hey, I want to have a new model for inventory. I want to a new model for CRM. These are my configurations, and automatically create a JSON that the Octane framework will pick up and create the model for you. So these are the type of power that we have with these plugins and with this LLM. One thing that I want to mention about the plugins is that the first time that I was starting to play with it, again, let's say that it doesn't know who am I, so I have a plugin that it will basically store the context. It will store, hey, my name is Jose, and I will pass that again. Then I have another plugin that it will tell me, same thing, my name is Jose, I live in Arizona. The second plugin will tell me, okay, I need to add 2 numbers because it doesn't know about math, so it will call my plugin and I will add 2 numbers. And I have a third plugin that it will say, what is the temperature in Phoenix on January 13 at 10:23, and it will call the weather API, and from there it will give me the response. So I have 3 plugins doing that behavior. So let's say that I ask my LLM, what is the temperature of where I live added by 100? So without anything on my part, the LLM is smart enough to go and orchestrate those calls. So it will call my, let's call it context plugin. It will say, hey, who is the person that was chatting with me? I know it's Jose. Where did he live? In Arizona. What is the temperature in Arizona? Call the weather API. And also it will say, let's add that to 100, and we will call the addition plugin. So all of those plugins called one after the other one. That was just like mind-blowing when I saw it. Like, I didn't have to set up that orchestration. So we saw how fast we could get started with semantic kernel, do a console app, and starting to do things. So
I may have a question, Jose. In fact, not me, but someone from the chat. Let me bring that.
Sure.
Was asking, because we're talking about semantic kernel, we're talking about how it can orchestrate all the plugins and all those things for us. Is it similar to LangChain?
Yeah. So basically, I will say I haven't used LangChain as much, but the idea here with semantic kernel is to have just a single SDK that we can use across all of those things. So I probably will say they are not exactly similar, but I can give a more comprehensive answer by the end of the talk.
Okay. Oh, good. There's so many different. AI is growing fast, so there's like plenty of tools popping up. I feel each week, so it's always good to make sure, like, if we can make connection between them and
But we had David and Bruno helping in the chat. So David, do you want to comment something?
No, I was going to say that they have very similar goals, but they like diverge in the approach that they take to, achieve those goals. And, it's just a different tool. So, if you have a preference and you prefer LangChain, by all means, we're not trying to say, semantic kernel is the only way, even though the title of this is one tool for all. I was going to actually ask a question though, Jose. I was curious, how does your AI, app here know which of your multiple plugins to choose?
Yeah, so basically right here, if you see everything is commented out, so it only has the plugin that I'm showing right now.
Yeah, but like you said before, like if you had, for example, you can add any number of plugins and it will have to figure out which ones it might need to rely on. So if you had like 3 different plugins available, which one would it, like, how would it know which ones, or,
All right, so let me share to a different project just to show this quickly. Let's say that we have this plugin that basically will create an invoice. So that plugin has this function, has this other function, and I have a couple functions there. Then I have another plugin here, they have a lot of functions. So from the top part of each function, we're going to have a description parameters that it will tell the AI what is the purpose of that function. So we're going to return a list of all events in JSON format. We're going to search for the customer by name and assign them to the invoice. We're going to create the invoice detail. So basically, we're giving the model context and description of what each function should do. And the model is smart enough to figure it out. So based on that description and based also on the parameters that we're passing to that function and what we're asking, which one is the one that we need to invoke and in the order that we need to invoke. So that's amazing.
So basically the model, if I understand it, is capable of saying, I have this general prompt from a user and it will evaluate all of the registered plugins or tool calls.
Yeah, let's put the same example that I mentioned before. Let's say that I ask the model, what is the temperature of where I live multiplied by 100?
Right.
He will, if you put some lower and you start seeing his reasoning, it will say, hey, first, who is you? Who are you? Like, I need to find out. And then start looking for a function or something where he can find that information. As soon as he finds it, he parse that information and put it apart and go back to the same to the same call. And then he say, okay, where do you live? And then he say, okay, what is the weather? Where do you live? And then he say, okay, what is the addition? So he knows how to parse all of that. And we'll talk about that. We also have something that is called filters that you can put before a function invocation and after a function invocation. And then you can start guiding him if he's not doing things right, where to do. And especially also, besides guiding him, getting some approval. Because let's say that you have a function that it will order a pizza. We need definitely some confirmation from the AI to the user before we charge the credit card. We're going to ask him, hey, are you really sure you want to order a pizza with this? Just give me a thumbs up, give me something, and then it will allow it. So basically, based on those descriptions of all those function filters, he will find out, and then we can actually have some filters and make sure that we intercept it before and after.
And in some cases, depending on the prompt that you put, I imagine that the AI would simply say, I don't have context for this. So let's say that you have the context for knowing the weather and the history of where you live, but then you ask something else about it, or like, oh, how old is my house or something, and it has no information about your house, then it will say, I don't have that information, right?
Exactly. And I also, just coming back to the questions, I just want to mention, I have been working in .NET for a long time, and Blazor has been a blessing for me. So anything that is JavaScript, anything that is outside of my love C#, if I have semantic kernel, I definitely will not use LangChain, but that's for me. I have a lot of people on my team that they will definitely use JavaScript and any other framework. So as always, it's not about technology is about what makes you more productive. Use what you know, use the tools that you have, and go from there.
Yeah. We have another good question here. Can we use multiple LLMs at the same time in semantic kernel to leverage the unique capabilities of each LLM for better results?
So, if I understand it correctly, is to like basically have like Olama and OpenAI at the same time. Is that what we're trying to achieve here?
It seems like it, yeah, like just layering
different
of
models,
yeah. No, the idea definitely is like you have all your code will be agnostic of your model, so you can just change the configuration and use it. So basically, in theory, you can actually have a part of your application that you create a kernel and use it with one part of your application, with create another kernel and use it with another model, and then you can compare results, see what is behaving better, see what, like for your use case, what would be the preferred model, and also like size or speed on coming back or response. So that's up to you. That's why we have so many models, because right now we can evaluate them and test them and try them and see which one will be the more affine to your business application.
Awesome. I think that was all the questions we had so far.
All right, so let's jump in then and show. Let me just I'm gonna create just one app real quickly from scratch, so you guys see where the application that I will be showing comes, but then I will jump right away to an example. So right here we have our .NET live demo. What I want to show here is that this is a application framework that we can use to create something real fast. And let's put standard
interesting.
login.
I've never seen this before. So this is like a project new dialogue that just went into like another one, essentially.
Exactly. This is a template from DevExpress that allows to create a SAF application. What does that mean is that we're going to be able to have right away, real fast, a database set up for us, and we're going to create three classes. Three classes will convert in three tables, and we're going to have a UI, so we can start adding our AI right there, and then we have a graphical interface that we can use right away. So basically, let's just put, we don't have to actually add nothing anymore. Let's just finish. And from there, without us having done anything else, I'm going to come here to business object and add, let's add right here a class called invoice.
We can see it's not your first time you're going through this wizard. You're going fast, click.
And then we'll create client.
And I'm still trying to find my place. It's like, is this Visual Studio? I don't recognize this.
Yeah, but basically, if we see here, we create an invoice, and inside this invoice, we're going to, let's say, add a property called invoice description. Doesn't matter. It's just to show that what we have in the other, and then in client, we're gonna add name. We're gonna add active. We're gonna add a birthday, etc., etc. So with that, only that, we can run the project, and it will create a database for us. It will create a table called client. We'll create a table called invoice, and we're going to have an UI with some CRUDs and authentication. So that will be real fast. And now we can move to the other project where I have a SAF app with some AI in it, and you guys see where it came from, that it was not something that we spent a lot of time. We just did a prototype. I wanted to show you. So right here, we want to put admin, no password.
Very secure.
That's only on the book, by the way. If you try to release that will not work. All right, let's give it a second. And if we go to our databases here now and refresh, you see we have the net live demo database, and then we will have our client and invoice tables. And from there, you see we have client here. We can create a new one. You have invoice and so on. So that's basically the gist of what, like, how fast can we get one of these app running. Now let's come back to the demo that we wanted to show. So if we come here now, and we're going to run our app, we will have the same thing that we just created. A class called invoice, a class called products, and customer. Basically, our invoice will have a customer and a list of invoice details that will be our products. So let's come here, invoice. Let's delete this one. We will have here our date, customer, discount, and invoice detail that will be products. If we go to products, we have an iPhone and a laptop. And if we have to customer, we have Jose. So now if we come here and let's copy this, so I show, let's gonna create this invoice, and I say, okay, let me actually double check one thing. Yeah. So I say, okay, let's create an invoice for Jose with 2 iPhones, 1 laptop, 30% discount. I click OK. And if we give it a second, it did create an invoice with the iPhone, 2 iPhones, laptop, quantity correctly, discount, 30%. Probably we didn't specify the date, so, but the idea here is like create the invoice. So how do we achieve that? And this is the interesting part. Let's go to the code.
Well, immediately I'm starting to think let's just get like some free invoices out there and say 100% discount. Like I'm assuming we can put some sort of like guardrails in there, right?
Yeah, exactly. And that's the filter part. You put a filter that say only the manager will be the one who mentioned the discount. No one else can put discount. If you put discount, we're gonna. So it's just like the manager could do that. But if you see here, we have the invoice plugin, right? And the invoice plugin is what we were mentioning before. The plugin, we can forget about this. This is basically the idea that we're going to have the application to be able to create on the database and to see, okay, we are in the view of invoice. We're going to take the object. We're going to add the date and discount. But this is just regular .NET. We are basically adding from the object that we're seeing what is the date. What is interesting is like we are defining as a kernel function, and we're getting a description that we say, hey, create the invoice with the date and the discount that is applied to our product. Another one that is assign client, search by the customer name, and assign them to the invoice. The other one is create invoice detail. So think about this. The create invoice detail only creates one detail. Only creates one detail. So it was smart enough to know that it has to go twice to that function, one for the iPhone and one for the laptop, without us telling them. So let's see now how we can invoke that. Let's go to the invoice controller. And if you see here, same thing, we create the kernel, then we build it, we add our plugin, we pass any parameter that our plugins needs, and then we set up some settings, basically what we want the temperature to be, and so on. And then we invoke it. The interesting thing here is like, we never tell them, hey, which one to call first, which one to call second. So it went and call the create invoice and create the invoice, then call the assign client and find the client by the name and assign it to that invoice, and then went to the create invoice detail and pass twice for that. So if you check this invoice controller, one thing that is important to mention is this in the settings, this tool called behavior auto invoke kernel function. That is what it will tell the kernel, hey, check your functions that you have in there, and like if you don't know something, try to find your answers over there. And with that one, we, as we mentioned before, added a filter that it will put the book right line before the invocation and after the invocation. And we also add that to our kernel. So in theory, we're going to come to our output, and we have here our calls after the invocation, and before the invocation. So and if you see the create detail pass twice. So for the iPhone and for the laptop. So we didn't have to ask him, hey, call this function twice. It knows by itself how to orchestrate that. So this is a really nice example, I think. But what I was thinking in regard of the example that we saw at the beginning of the session about, hey, how we can do voice control, set up an appointment, and so on, is we have the same, right here. We have our scheduler control. The scheduler control, if we create an invoice, will be the same approach. We're going to create an event and we're going to save it to the database and we're going to show it on control and we're good to go. But instead of doing it as we were doing it here, just giving them some command, we can do it as, and let's close it here, as a chat. So we have a chat where we say, hello, and then, hey, how can I assist you today? And then we can basically say, create an event for a semantic kernel on January 18, 2025, and so on, and show me a list of available resources, because if, let me just copy this for a second so I don't lose. So if you see, the calendar can also have resources, like this is the appointment for Jose, this is an appointment for Jose, this is an appointment for David, this is an appointment for Fran. So we need to know which one is the resource that we're going to get the appointment from. So if we do that, and let's simulate again. All right. It will ask me which resource do you want to set the appointment with, and I will say with Jose. Oh, I click OK, of course. Let's do it again because I didn't finish.
We should create a booking app for our show.
Yeah.
To book our guests.
All right. I'm going to select one. I say, hey, the event semantic kernel talk have is created for January 18, 2025 from 8 to m. Anything else? Boom. And then if we go to the 18, we have our semantic kernel talk on Jose. So think about the only thing that we're missing here will be speech to text, because that way we can put it on a phone and then they can actually create the appointment talking with you, and then you are just handling that real time and sending that appointment just with a plugin. So I think that this is a really beautiful use case, and there is something else that will be missing to get to this voice controller app, and that will be the rack part. They will need to know something about, or like repair shop, something about my talk, or something about whatever, so I can ask him more information. Hey, do you want to set up the appointment with Jose, that is the expert on Blazor, or do you want to with David, that is the expert on AI, or do you want to with, so more content about it. So for that one, let's open our last demo.
I'm also very impressed by your computer, handling like 4 Visual Studio, streaming, PowerPoint is like.
Yeah, I was thinking it's not gonna close those instances to make it faster, because StreamYard hogs like the machine. And
well, yeah, of course it's taking resources, right, to stream. But yeah, I'm impressed by your machine. It's performing very well.
So we're almost there to get to the voice controller job prepared prototype. We have a couple different parts. So let's see this one. In this one, I'm gonna just show it because I want to show the speech recognition. So let's say that I want, this is just a criteria generator. Like we do a lot of reports and we do a lot of filtering in list views and in lists, and so we need to have a criteria that, okay, I want only the invoice for 2025 and things like that. So you can do it typing, natural query language, but we can do it with speech recognition. So if I say here, give me the customers that start with letter O, it should bring me a criteria that show that, hopefully. Let's see. and it creates the criteria that names start with letter O and so on. But the idea here is like we saw the speech recognition part that we can also use it to translate to text and then show it on our application. So what will be our last part, like the RAG part? Like we need to have some way that we pass our domain business documents and so on. So right here we have another one where we can actually select a PDF. Let's get this one and demo. And basically, well, this is a syllabus, and we can for XPO in summary form. That's just basically just some like training material. So let's say that I do the chat, and I will ask him, what should I study for XPO with summary forms?
You should not study Xamarin Forms anymore.
I know.
Hopefully
It would be
responds
funny
with
if,
Maui.
AI replied that.
That would be nice. But if you see, it's bringing the data from that PDF. And that's basically with like a reference to like, it's a weird reference. I think there is the 6 line or so. Like, but basically we can improve all of those things and even give them hyperlink to that one, but it gives you information from there. And as a last part will be like the kernel memory, where you can actually see the RAG that we just show in a little more in memory. You see that we create an embedding a string, this amount of float numbers here that have some information that Yami live in Arizona, and you can open another one that Francie live in Europe, and so on, so on. So if I chat with this and I ask him, where does Francis live? In Europe, as we show. But if I ask, where does Maira live? He doesn't know. He doesn't know, basically. So that's basically, I think, all the separate parts that we need to build something like voice controller. We have the speech recognition, we have the model, we have the function calling, we have the context, we have the memory, we have the rack. So with that one, this type of application that we were mentioning from the beginning are definitely doable for us .NET developers, and definitely able to improve the life and the customer service of several small to medium business apps and even big applications. So quickly coming back to our presentation, so a few other really nice cases are planners, so basically to make sure that the AI creates a set of steps that you need to fulfill any request. The personas is like you're going to start giving your LLM apps basically specific tags. You're going to be the researcher, you're going to be the copywriter, you're going to be the designer agent, the project manager, and they are going to get really good at it. And what is interesting for me is that they can even orchestrate between each other. They can be the manager, like handling tasks to the researcher, to the copywriter, to designers, and then the back, and so on. And we just talk about the memories, and we saw the kernel memory in place. So with that one, that will be the end of the session, but happy to follow up and get any questions. You guys can reach me on my Twitter or X right now, my email, and really excited to be here and discussing about AI in general. And it's a pleasure.
Some folks were asking if the demos are available somewhere.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely.
Yeah, do you have a GitHub URL or something that you can share?
Yeah, I can put them public. I have it private, but this is my GitHub, and they will be public by the end of today.
Awesome.
The only thing that I want to mention there is that you will need a DevExpress universal license available to be able to run the XAF part. The console app, definitely you will have it there ready to use, but everything else on the DevExpress application, you will need the license from there.
Okay, but
product.
they can take a look at the AI logic,
Yeah.
the code, etc.
They can get the
Yeah.
semantic kernel part and move it to their own app.
And David beat me at putting the URL in the chat. Great. Yeah, that was the question came twice. And people were also, I'm assuming, liking the UI because they ask also what framework. So it was DevExpress, correct?
Yeah, DevExpress XF.
Awesome. Thank you, Jose. I think that was awesome. A good overview of what you can do with semantic kernel. And I was like, I hope it doesn't know where I live. Although, like, I've seen demos where it can also include like calls to like Bing or Google and like do web search if your plugins cannot resolve with the data that they have there. So it could try to search the internet as well for the answer. So yeah.
We did have one other question I'll put up here on screen real quick. So this was earlier, and they're users from YouTube. They're asking what architectural patterns are most suitable for applications built with semantic kernel. And they're kind of focusing on like microservices or serverless setups.
I say that the semantic kernel doesn't add anything different to a regular application. Like the same architectural pattern that you will use to get a really reliable, efficient line of business app or any .NET app is the same that you will use without semantic kernel. So you just add the semantic kernel to enhance your application, but there is no, in my opinion, nothing different that you should do just by adding semantic kernel.
Awesome.
All right. Thank you so much. That was awesome. And we are gonna come back. So we have a break next week. It's a holiday here in the US. But we're gonna come back on the 27th to talk about dangers of a dogmatic approach. So I think we'll talk about patterns and best practices. So stay tuned for that. And with that, I want to thank everyone for watching on that live, and for you, Jose, to coming and share about semantic kernel and AI on .NET. That was awesome. You can check out our other great streams that we have at dot.nt/live. I'm hearing an echo. Sorry. And until next time, see you all then. Thank you.
Bye. Yep.